Jason Singh, 25 years of Taxiride. I cannot believe that 25 years ago would have been when we first met.
It's an incredible, it's like you said, it takes a long time to get through the first 25 years and a blink of an eye in the next 25 years. So, yeah, you haven't changed a bit. I've changed a bit. But I'm lucky and I'm glad to still be doing what I love. I'm lucky.
Yeah, generally, when people say to me, you haven't changed a bit, the answer to that is bullshit.
Yeah, I agree because, I still have the same sort of mentality about music, I have the same drive and all those kinds of things. But obviously, I'm a lot more learned than I was when we came out. I was in my early 20s, very early 20s. And we were just, sort of hanging on for this extreme elevation from obscurity to popularity. It was a lot to take in. But yeah, I've definitely changed, and a lot has changed around me. But I think your core morals and stuff, they sort of stay the same.
Well, let's talk about those 25 years because it really did come in with a bang with Imaginate, didn't it? Were you expecting that album to be as big as it was for a debut record?
Look, we put in the work. So there was something going on internally that I knew that something special was going on, even though that was my first original band. I worked every single day for 3 or 4 years before we even did one show. We formulated a sound. We worked in, worked in with Pete Dacey to formulate something really different and brought in all these different types of individuals to make something that wasn't regular, I guess. And at the time, I just remember just knowing and believing that it was special and it was going to be massive. So, there was a lot of hope and dreams involved in that, but at the same time, there was an inner belief that I was on the right path and we were going to do something that was going to change my life forever.
It was a great time in music. Radio was very much a part of the Australian music industry at that point. And we had bands like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Eagles, those harmony bands. And along comes Taxiride. It was really about the harmonies at the beginning, wasn't it?
A little bit. I'd say before we went over to America, it was about the harmonies. But when we went over and worked with Jack Joseph Puig, he brought that sort of rock element out of the band. That was sort of what I brought to the table. I loved 90s rock bands, the Soundgarden, Tool, Rage Against the Machine. But then I also loved Prince and Michael Jackson. So it was like this molding and melting pot of all these ideas. And I think we could all sing together. Yeah, there's no doubt that the four voices made this incredible blend. But yeah, and then there was this rock element that LA brought out of us a little bit that we were trying to push a little bit further. And when we came out with Garage Mahal, I think that was like evident of the time we spent overseas, and those kind of guitar-based rock bands sort of took over the style of the band a little bit.
And remarkable songs that were all over the radio at that point as well. Do you remember the first time you heard your song being played on the radio?
I do remember the first time I heard the song, and I was standing at an ATM machine, and you don't have to say ATM machine, do you? Just say ATM.
ATM, I was going to point that out.
You were going to, I know. I was standing at an ATM, and the guy in front of me was whistling Get Set. And it took everything in my power not to tap him on the shoulder and just go, hey, that's me singing that song, So that was a moment that, I've cherished and taken along with me in the journey.
Yeah. The album was recorded.
But it was hard. It was very hard to get away from the songs because we were so big at radio, and the Australian radio was so very supportive of us and a lot of other Australian bands at the time too, coming through. That was all about, Australian content. It was an unbelievable time in the music business for us.
So you've got this unknown band out of Melbourne, young Jason Singh, jumping on a plane, going to Los Angeles, making his way to Ocean Way Recordings. That must have been pretty exciting stuff at that time.
Now that I have all this knowledge about music and, you know, all these experiences, what I wouldn't give to walk back into that studio. But at the time, there were so many incredible things happening week in, week out, that, you know, going and spending 3 months at Ocean Way was just another incredible thing that we, you know, look back on. And I mean, I look back on it and go, what an amazing, incredible time. But yeah, walking into that gigantic studio where Pet Sounds was recorded and, you know, all these monster bands and records were made, we sort of just took it in our stride, really, and just went with it. But it did make for an incredible album.
The second album that came in, I think, 2002. You know, they say you've got 20 years to get your first record together, but you've got to come up with the second record pretty much straight away. Was there a bit of pressure or a rush to create the songs that were going to be the Garage Mahal record?
Well, there was pressure because of the success that we had with Imaginate, but I think when Garage Mahal came along, I'd sort of figured out what I had to do, and sort of stepped up as a songwriter and as a creative person, and you know, took the reins a little bit more at the front of the band. And it's where I think where we really hit our stride. And like I was saying before, you know, LA sort of injected this sort of rock mentality into us. I mean, we were using like Stone Temple Pilots guitars and all these great instruments that were available to us there, and it brought out that sort of guitar-based rock element. But there was a bit of pressure, but, you know, having more than one writer in the band, I guess I could step up into that position and you know, put a flag in the ground and say, this is sort of my album, you know what I mean? So it really Garage Mahal for me feels like my record.
It was interrupted by September 11. This was all being created right at that time, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I mean, we were actually on a plane to America on September 11th. We were flying there midair and were turned about back to Auckland, and we didn't know what was happening, and got off the plane in Auckland, and then, you know, seen the planes hit the building, and I sort of realized, holy shit, that could have been us, you know. And it was hella scary. But we did pack up and go back 2 weeks later. But it did change a lot of things, because we had one producer lined up to record the album, and then when we had to cancel, we had to change producers. So, I mean, it's just all part of the journey, and the sliding doors moments in your career, in your life, that take you down the path that you were always meant to be on, I guess.
And that one was recorded in various studios around Los Angeles.
Yeah, so we did the drums at Conway, which is, you know, great drum room, and had Christina Aguilera next door and Scott Storch in one room playing me beats and smoking joints. It was nutso. And then we finished the rest off in Venice Beach, and did all the overdubs there, and then came back to Australia and worked with Pete Dacey again, and recorded some vocals. So then we had Mike Shipley and a few other people do the mixing, and the rest is history.
2005 was the next time we had a Taxiride record. So they were being like spaced out every 3 years, weren't they?
Time just goes so quickly. I mean, it's by the time you put out an album, and then you got to go on the road and go on tour and play all these places all around the world, and then all of a sudden a couple of years has passed, and we've got to get back to work to make some more music. And, you know, that's why I love being a musician. I want to make music all the time. I want to make new stuff and put, you know, timestamps throughout my life about what I'm into now, and I'm constantly writing. But yeah, 2005 we did Axiomatic. We got off our big label at Warner Brothers and decided to make an independent record, and you know, it was a good experience at the time. It was much more like beginning all over again. There was a lot of kamikaze type recording, and you know, just getting by, and there's not these huge $1 million budgets to deal with. So we're making this record at home, you know. So it was like a way to get back to what was important in the song, and not let all the outside noise get involved, I guess. And I mean, I love that record. It wasn't heard by many people because we didn't have those huge promotion budgets and stuff like that to be able to get it out to everybody. But there's some good songs on there too.
It went outside the square for Taxi Ride as well. That song, I think it was Everything and Nothing with Chris
Yeah,
Bailey.
that's right.
That
Yeah.
was a really interesting person to bring into your inner circle.
Yeah, I mean, it came through MGM at the time, and Tim Wilde and I were looking for people to write with, and I guess it sort of goes with that differences, bringing as many different types together to come up with something that's irregular. And I hung out with Chris Bailey quite a bit. We actually got along like a house on fire, and we wrote a couple of songs, one which made the record, and that one, Everything and Nothing, started with just this stuff I was writing about. There was just a story I wrote about a dental assistant who was sexy and psycho, and that's where the song came from. Drill away, this pain I'm feeling is decay. That's like straight out of my book, you know. And Chris was really good at hearing, you know, and visualizing a story in a song, I think. And that's important, you know, like, because the early songs with Taxi Ride, for me, even though we, like you said, had a whole lifetime to write those songs, some of them aren't really about anything, you know what I mean? And I like my songs now to really be about something. I think I learned that from Charles Fisher when I was making my debut solo album. He said, make every word count. And I went, oh yeah, of course, make every word count. So, you know, there's no throwaway songs. Like Everywhere You Go for me is a real throwaway. It feels good, it sounds good, feels good when you're driving the car down the highway, but doesn't really mean anything, you know what I mean? So that's what Chris was really good at as well, is finding the essence of what the song is about.
It's hard to imagine Humaniquin's over 10 years old now. It had its
Do you
10th
believe
anniversary
that?
last year.
I know last year I forgot all about it actually because it's gone so quick. But yeah, that gig that we did at Top in the Town, that was 10 years ago. Yeah, for me, Humanican is like one of the proudest moments as a musician, because it was the first time I stood up by myself and went, this is me, you know. And the songs on that record, I think, are as good as anything that we ever did in Taxi Ride. Personally, I mean, I know because I wrote them, I guess I would say that, but they mean a lot to me, if you know what I mean. And there's really personal stuff on that record that I'm super proud of.
There was the Valet album 2018, and that's all also expanded into a full show for you now, hasn't it? Heaven's Greatest Hits.
Yeah, Valet is a record that I put together in 2018 after we lost Prince, George Michael, and Bowie in the same year in 2016. And once Prince passed away, I was like, God damn, this is like, what are my kids going to be into? You know what I mean? What are they going? Because I listened to Prince for 2 decades without having room for anybody else. So I was a mega huge super fan. And when he passed away, it was like losing a family member to me. And it got me thinking about how important these artists are that have helped me grow as a person and have been like my companion along my life. You know, there's always a song that I can put to a moment in my life, whether it's being in high school or when my father passed away or whatever. Like big moments have a song attached to them. And it got me thinking about all the artists that I've loved that are no longer with us and have left this huge legacy throughout my whole life, from Jim Morrison through to Freddie Mercury and Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots, Jeff Buckley, who was a huge influence on me. So I decided to make an album in tribute of all those artists. And it was literally just like a therapy thing for me. I just wanted to put a body of work together. And then COVID hit, obviously, and as that album was being finished and it got me formulating how I was going to represent that album on a live aspect. And I came up with the show Heaven's Greatest Hits, which is the tribute to the artists that contributed to me. And that I was hugely successful, and still blows me away, blows my mind that you know, so many people connected with that show. We got to do some huge rooms, Princess Theatre. We played Palms 3 times in a year. We played the Opera House last year to, as a pinnacle of that show. So, yeah, extremely proud of that album and show.
So 25 years of Taxiride, the tour, will this also be 25 years of Jason Singh?
Well, yeah, I mean, the tour is Jason Singh, 25 years, Taxiride. I was going to go and Beyond and Valet and Axiomatic, but the title's too long, you know what I mean? So it was just like Jason Singh, 25 years, Taxiride. Taxiride's a huge part of my journey. I've represented that band for more than half my life, and I see it in a different way than the other guys would see it. So yeah, it is a culmination, and I do play some of the Heaven's Greatest Hits stuff off there, and I do play some of the songs from Humanica, as well as a few tracks that steered me to where I am right now talking to you.
Fans that have been coming to these shows that you've been doing are Taxiride fans, but they hover towards you to hear these songs.
Well, I sang them. So, I mean, you can, there's a lot of dramas going on in that world right now. There's, court cases, and there's division and all that sort of stuff that I've never really wanted. A drum sounds like a drum, and a guitar sounds like a guitar, but a voice sounds like a person, you know what I mean? So when I sing the Taxiride songs, they sound right. So that's why people are coming to see me do them, I guess.
So how far down the track are you with all of the legal things that are going on with Taxiride at the moment?
We're about 2 years into this battle, a battle that I never wanted to have. I never asked for it. I don't know why it happened. It's extremely, I get extremely emotional about it. I'm very hurt by it. It's taken 2 years to have the first hearing about the trademark. So that was only 2 weeks ago. This all started in October 2021. And I've been fighting for what's right ever since.
Yes.
It's quite ugly, and it's not what I ever imagined. When I put the whole band back together in 2016, and we were all grown men, and I sat everyone down individually and then together and said, let's just forget the bad stuff that happened and try and remember the good stuff. I do that all the time in my life too. My family's quite fractured at the moment, and I try and tell them, just don't worry about the bad stuff, just like try and remember all the good things that we did together. And we did that. We got past, we finally, reconnected. I put all the 4 original members back together, and then all the same problems surfaced, I guess. And a lot of sides forming, and a lot of jealousy. And, I'm just not about that. I just want to go out and play songs that I was, involved in every aspect of, and do it the right way. You know what I mean? I'm not going out as Taxiride. I am Jason Singh.
Well, I think people want to come along and hear the voice that they heard on the record, and this is the tour that will allow them to do that when it gets underway, and it's going for quite some time. Look at all those dates.
Yeah, there's a lot of dates, and well, that's the mission for me. The mission statement for me is to try and make the sound and the visualization of this tour as close to the 2002 version of Taxiride as possible. And that's, me at the front. The songs sound spot on. The harmonies are all still there, but the part that people sing along to sounds exactly like it did then, and it still sounds the same now.
Well, we can see that you're having a good time in Bali at the moment. The reason you're having a good time
sorry
in Bali
about that.
At the moment is because when you get home, you've got all the way through to June working every weekend. So there's a lot of work coming up.
It's good to be able to put it all together like this in a tour, to celebrate what's been an incredible part of my life. And I've never stopped singing those songs, even when band members left or whatever. I've always flown the flag for that band. It's hugely important to me, and I've always tried to maintain the correct way to promote it. I'm Jason Singh, and I'm the lead singer from the band Taxiride. So that's what I'm trying. I will always be that. You can't take that away from me, because it's in your hand. It's in history,
Yep. 25 years of Taxiride, Jason Singh's epic anniversary tour. We look forward to it.
Come on down, check it out.
And good to see
I'll
your
do my
smiling
best
face.
to take you back down memory lane, buddy. Thank you very much.